I'm going to show you how to automate searching for auction properties using Claude Code skills. Now, typically, people would spend their time going through the auction catalogs, going through Rightmove, and looking at multiple different sites in order to find the auction properties, let alone evaluate each one and try to work out what each one is worth and compare them to other properties in that same area. But what if your Claude Code skill can do all of this for you and even more? Let's have a look at what that looks like. So there's a tool within the UK real estate space called Property Data. It's a website essentially that provides a lot of this information for a fee. There's also an API access. So API is essentially a way for computers to talk to that same data and retrieve what you need. That is what the Claude Code skill would tap into. So all you have to do is create a folder, a project folder, or any kind of folder, launch your Claude in that folder, and then make sure that there's a sequence of files and directories that already exist. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So typically, when the Claude Code skill executes, the one that I've built, it will generate a result that looks like this, and it's a web page that you can use locally for yourself. So it's found one property within the London area or within the E1 area of London, and it's looked within 40 miles. Now, clearly, there might be more properties available on the market, but are they auction properties? And does property data have access to that information? So we're reliant on the information that comes from property data. And that is how we automate these things. Now, there's another website called EIG or EGI, can't remember which now, but it's E something IG. Um, the Essential Information Group. Is that the one? Or is it or EJI? Anyway, one of the two has all the properties within auction, or about 90% of all the properties within the auction. So that's another area you can look at, and there are things you can do to automate access to that to the auction data. But for now, this is what we have access to. So E1 within 40 miles, it's got this. Right. So what does this information give us? It's given us how many auction lots it found within 40 miles. It's also looked at the discount to the market price. So on here, it reckons that the market average would be 609,000, but the guide price for this two-bed flat is 200,000. I mean, that area can be a bit expensive, but I wouldn't have thought that this particular lot would achieve that, but we don't know. But going off of the information that property data makes available, things like sale prices, for sale prices, the rental prices, it's considered all of that. And it's saying that there's a discount of 67.2%. The other thing that your Claude Code can do for you, or the skills, is assess the legal pack for the property. So there's an additional step that you can run called evaluate the review the auction. So yeah, another skill called review auction would review the property that it has found. So let's have a look at the setup that you'd need to have in place in order to use this. Okay, so um, create a folder, name it whatever you want, and then within that folder, you want to have a file within the folder called claude.md with this uppercase claude.md, and this claude.md is essentially the parent instruction set, and that instruction set tells the AI what skills exist and what to look for and how to utilize all of those skills. So it's like the conductor of all the skills. It tells which one to cut to run and which one needs to be called at what point and what else needs to be included in the sequence of the execution. So for auction deals, I've got a skill called find auction deals. And within the find auction deals, you've got a skill.md. Now, what is the structure? You create your folder. Within that folder, you create a .claude file, so .claude. Within the .claude folder, you create skills, and within skills, you create the find auction deals. And then within find auction deals, you have this file called skill.md, and the skill is written in uppercase. That's all you need in order to do the search. With the exception of one other thing, you do need something called an API key. So that's the security key for you to be able to connect into property data. So what are the instructions I've given it? Find auction deals, and then with the description I have in there is find auction properties near a UK postcode. Parse auction dates from listing summaries, tag each as upcoming, today, past, date unknown, and sort so that the hottest upcoming lots appear first. And then it generates a HTML. And that HTML generation is from another skill. So that's giving you an idea that skills can call other skills. So skills can call other commands to execute so that the combination of all those commands results in what we see later on. Okay, so the reason we're tagging each property with upcoming, today, past is that one of the execution sessions that I ran for this video showed some old or past properties, and that's based purely on what was returned by the API. But it's not old as in years, it's just old as in 3 days ago. So the auction has passed. Now, we don't know if those properties had sold or not, but that's information we can glean when we execute the skills. So all you have to do is type in here slash, so / find auction properties. So that's the skill, find auction deals, sorry, find auction deals. And then we give it the postcode, E1, and then we give it a radius, which is 20. But the last one I did was 40 miles. Okay, so, and then it goes off running. Now, let's have a look at what the outcome was the last time. So 40-mile radius, find auction deals near E1 with a 40-mile radius, and then it's come back with that. So the data came from property data, and I think property data sources it from HM Land Registry, some of that information anyway. So we've got a full postcode and everything we need in order to touch this. So you've got a link to the actual listing itself, and this is the listing. It's on the market, and it's one of these properties. So as you can see, it's quite uh, interesting. You've got a McDonald's downstairs, so there's a bit of commercial on the ground floor. So I wonder if that's why it's not sold, because the area is not too far from central London. You've got 91 years left on the lease, and all of that is on the web page where it's actually being sold. So when you've looked at that and the skills have executed complete and have run to completion, they would also run an auction review. So that auction review is where you execute slash auction hyphen review with the ID of the property, and this ID of the property coincides with this, or is the exact same ID that the on the market website has given to that property. And then it goes off and it starts to look at different things. So one of the things it looks at is the legal pack. It will try to gain access to the legal pack. It might be that the legal pack is with maybe Knight Frank or one of the other big names. So you'd have to provide access to that legal pack. And the idea for it having access to the legal pack is for it to review the contents of the legal pack, pass it through an LLM for it to highlight any issues. So the auction review in this case has done essentially what is calling an auction due diligence. You've got the address, you've got the agent that's listing it, you've got the starting bid, risk rating is medium because it hasn't really looked at the legal pack, it wasn't able to get it. The auction date is to be confirmed, and the legal pack wasn't found. So maybe the legal pack isn't ready because, going by the fact that the auction date hasn't been set yet. So the property type is a 2-bed. The current rent you can get from that area is £2,100 per calendar month. How many years left on the lease? The service charge is 3,000. So it's gleaned all this information. Even though there's sparse information on the website, it's able to pull that into one place for you to have a look at. So based on the sale price, you have a gross yield of 12.6%, fairly high. Um, and then a net yield of 10.8%. So these are the figures you want to be looking at. And then a comparable flat average is 363,000, and potential upside is 163. So I think it looks like you'd be able to sell it for 300 and something thousand in that particular area. But this is going off of comparable evidence and other things that have sold in the area. And then with regards to the title, it says leasehold flat with approximately 91 years remaining, above the 80-year threshold required for most mortgage lenders, and above the 70-year threshold typically required for post-mortgage terms. So it's giving you some insider tips. So if you purchase a flat and it doesn't have adequate number of years, you may not be able to get a mortgage on it. So or a standard mortgage on it. So that's what it's referring to there. So it's going to go through your typical due diligence. When it gets to legal pack, it would run through that and will highlight terms that you need to be concerned about. So here it's raising some red flags. So no legal pack, starting bid 35 to 55% below comparable sold prices, service charge, auction date, all these things it's highlighting. And this is all information at your fingertips. So it's also highlighted some of the comparables and sold prices. So what it's suggesting is fairly close to what you might be able to get. So these caveats are listed, and within a few minutes, this is done for one property, and you can decide if you want to go ahead with it or not. You may decide that after it's completed running for this auction, you want to try a different auction, try a different area, or try different property types. But either way, this is all done for you, and you don't have to lift a finger. All you have to do is just create your skill once, and it's done for good. You can also, I keep showing you the skills within a VS Code, so Visual Studio Code window, but there's also a Claude specific one, so which is this. So you download the Claude desktop app, and you could just do find auction deals. And then it would show you the description that appears in the skill.md file, and then you can do the rest of the stuff. So you could do E1 and then give it a radius of 40, and then press return, and it would just go off and start to process the deal. So don't forget to load the folder into the Claude desktop. So you need to click here and then present the folder, choose the folder, and then it becomes part of the context. So that's it for finding your auction deals. Next time we'll share another search that you can do as a property investor in order to keep increasing your possibility and potential of making a huge killing. So the next one I'll be looking at is finding planning approved sites. That'll be particularly interesting. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you. Until next time, keep building.